to the Edge of the Jurassic, everyone. I'm your host, Swift Edge, and once more, back by popular demand, we have... Who are you?
Little Edge.
Yeah, we got Little Edge back here. He has recently seen Jurassic World Rebirth. Full disclosure, I haven't seen it yet, so no spoilers. I'm just kidding, everyone's been spoiling it. But he had a question if the T-Rex could actually fight the T-Rex. And thankfully, we got Goji Center here, the king of so many fun, cool, interesting hybrids, and so many facts about dinosaurs that, of course, Goji Center made a D-Rex versus T-Rex battle analysis of who would win, and we're going to find out today because he's been asking. Now I'm curious. I'm sure some of you have been wondering that too. So without further ado, let's see who truly rules the world of Jurassic.
I say D-Rex.
Distortus Rex, the abominable mutant whose origins and real purpose of creation is still shrouded in mystery.
I still think it looks like a Rancor from Star Wars.
The lesser beings of St. Hubert, and one who could have treated the Jurassic fanbase with one more showdown. What if the latest Jurassic saga followed suit with a tradition the third outing established and gave us a colossal clash of carnivores? Today on Goji Center, we consider the build, abilities, and X factors to determine which Rex might have come out on top.
Oh, this is good
Jurassic
music.
World Rebirth capped off in a different way. In this special, short and sweet edition of Monster Face-Off, we'll discuss what could have happened if the D-Rex and new T-Rex faced off at the end. The fight that never was will be displayed here in the battle arena.
Godzilla, D-Rex, and
As the cast drove off into the sunrise, leaving the nightmare of St. Hubert Island behind them, we were all thinking the same thing. Director Gareth Edwards and other filmmakers involved realized they had perhaps unwittingly broken tradition by not including a carnivore clash in the film's runtime.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Quilled faces getting murked by actual dragons withstanding. In hindsight, this change does have some precedent, as writer David Koepp was the author of the only two Jurassic films not to feature any such major rumbles. The crew did consider changing the ending to what Edwards and company jokingly called Deus Rex Machina by having the T-Rex come charging back in to fight the final boss of the adventure, the Distortus Rex. Ultimately, Edwards and the crew decided a calmer ending and breaking tradition was more fitting, and plenty can agree. D-Rex is still currently alive in this Jurassic timeline, but we still can't help but wonder
for how long?
Against such a tower of terror, could even the new T-Rex, trumped up as possibly the most powerful yet in the franchise, have stood a chance? Would it win in a straight fight due to some unforeseen advantage? Or might the sheer size and power of the Chopper Chomper reign supreme all the same? Before continuing this episode of Monster Face-Off, we will take into account all the stats provided by official sources and evidence seen in the films. We'll make evaluations based on those stats and try to figure out who should have won, regardless of what rumors have said about who would have won. So, with that said, let's have a look.
Place your bets now, everybody.
Number 1, size. Right out the gate,
I'm thinking
however, these two
the T-Rex
have
might
a
have.
rather unique problem, namely how hard it is
But
to
the
tell how
T-Rex is
big they are
stronger.
actually supposed to be. The Jurassic
Ah.
franchise has never been the most consistent when it comes to the size of its dinosaurs, and Rebirth kept
Why
that
did
tradition going stronger than ever. Both of the Rexes in the film, mutant or otherwise, were supposed to one-up what came before. And some individual shots in the movie make both of these two look positively gargantuan compared to the Rexes of yesteryear. The stats
the
that are
D-Rex
posted on
and
the
the
merchandise,
T-Rex
however,
are literally
those
so
get a little bit
powerful.
confusing. Despite the stated intent that the
also,
Tyrant Lizard King featured in
even though
Rebirth
the
would be bigger and
T-Rex
beefier than Rexy,
D-Rex
at 4.6 meters
even
tall
though the
and
T-Rex
12.5
and
meters
D-Rex
long, the Rex of
fighted, I
Rebirth
wanna
is
see
indeed
who
slightly
would win,
longer
the
and taller than
Indominus
most
Rex
of the
or the
Tyrannosaurus
T-Rex.
in the first trilogy, but this is still shorter, length and height-wise compared to Rexy at the end of her tenure in Dominion. With a weight measurement of about 8,400 kilograms, however, the two Tyrant reptiles have about the same weight. Part of the confusion for its size, however, is because the CGI model morphs in size several times across its scene. At one point, this Tyrannosaurus looks like it has a skull roughly the same size as the raft that could fit multiple people. If that was true, and scaling up for size accordingly, this terrible tyrant would wind up closer to 20 or more meters long. This is absolutely not what was intended, and
that's
is probably
huge.
just the result of dramatic effect kicking in for the shots. The Distortus Rex, meanwhile, is not immune to this problem either. In several shots during the confrontation at the docks, or when the horrific hybrid infamously downed a helicopter, it looked
Just-
positively gargantuan. Gareth Edwards having a long tenure of
He
making
just
kaiju
ate
and
the-
giant Star Wars walkers
Oh
look huge on
my
camera
gosh,
certainly did it plenty of
Godzilla.
favors in leaving an impact.
How
Not
did
so
I
much
know
for keeping
Godzilla
things
was gonna be in
consistent.
this?
Official
Well, it's
stats
just showing
for
it
the
for
Drex aren't the
re-
easiest to
reference.
come by or the easiest to understand. Some official merchandise giving it a height of about 8.1 meters and a length of 14.5 meters
Oh,
does
there's-
make
there's
sense
T-Rex.
and even lines
Yeah.
up pretty closely to what we predicted before the
The
movie
T-Rex
came
is
out.
bigger than
Weight,
the
however,
T-Rex,
is
bro.
where it gets confusing.
Oh, the
same
T-Rex is
information card for the height and weight
big.
gives a bafflingly
Yeah.
big range from 12.7
Bigger than
tons
the
to
T-Rex,
upwards
bro.
of nearly double that
He
at
can grow
21.9
bigger than
tons.
bro.
This larger metric actually does make a lot of sense given the hybrid size, but some of the same cards very strangely imply the Spinosaurus in the film that are clearly smaller than the Rebirth Rex are almost the same weight. Additionally, sources from both the tie-in merch and Universal's release documents typically give the Distortus an oddly light weight of 9 to 11 tons. This isn't just light, it
20,000
also
pounds.
strangely
Oh.
contradicts numerous notes that this distorted king is supposed to be at least twice the weight of a typical Tyrannosaurus. See what we mean when we say the Jurassic franchise's sizes can be confusing? Mixing and matching how
Little bit.
big these two look in different scenes could make the comparison either surprisingly close or very lopsided.
Can
So,
T-Rex
for the
even
sake of
grab
fairness,
anything?
we're going to use
No,
the higher
hands
estimates
are
for
too
the
small
T-Rex and a
and too
midpoint
short.
for the Distortus's weight. This gives us an
Bro, the
8.4
T-Rex
ton
can
Tyrant
grab
Lizard
stuff,
King
but
versus
the
a
T-Rex can
17.3
just
ton
chomp,
Distorted
chomp,
King,
chomp
which
away.
fittingly lines up pretty well with the often quoted twice as big as
And also
T-Rex
T-Rex
remark.
can also
With all
stomp,
of that
but
factored, the winner
he
in
can
this
grab.
category
The
is
T-Rex can
very
grab.
obvious. The Tyrannosaurus finds itself in a rare situation for it as the David in this David and Goliath battle against the malicious malformity, Edge D-Rex.
Yeah.
Section number 2.
T-Rex is a
overall
bit of a
strength.
big boy.
A reason size does matter in some contests is because having a massive amount of weight also means you're constantly moving a massive amount of weight. Tyrannosaurus, both in real
Mass
life
and
and
force.
fiction, have shown off astounding
Yo,
strength.
bro,
Rexy,
it's time for the
despite being
super test.
emaciated, out of
It's
shape,
for
and
whoever
never fighting
can
another
beat
big carnivore in her
Godzilla
life
the
before,
strongest.
managed
No,
to shove around
no,
the
that's
Indominus
not gonna
and
happen.
later held her own
Or
against a
beat-
larger
or
This is
beat
dinosaur versus
Tyrannosaurus
dinosaur,
after
bud.
getting her strength back.
Or beat them
Big
with their
Edie
storm.
also went blow for blow with the gigantic Asset 87, despite a small
Spinosaurus
size difference.
versus
The
T-Rex.
Rebirth T-Rex should be capable of similar performance. When this lazy fella is
Well,
motivated, of course.
I-
The Distortus Rex, however, is a bit of a unique case, as we have yet to see it battle anything outside of mobile game
Bro.
tie-ins and Evolution
Bro,
2
we
mods.
saw
Shameless
the
plug here,
T-Rex
those
versus
T-Rex
the
Jurassic World Evolution
Spinosaurus
mod
and
videos
the
you see on YouTube.
T-Rex
Want to
versus the
take a wild
Indominus
guess who
Rex.
made that
Right now
mod?
we're
Yeah.
seeing the D-Rex,
Links down
and
below.
we're comparing
T-Rex
stats
did
to see
manhandle
what
things like the
if
car Krebs tried to flee
which
in
could
and
actually
downed
beat the
rescue
other, is what
helicopter
we're
with
doing.
No issues.
Yeah, but the D-Rex
Granted,
would
these
definitely
two
win.
showings are against substantially
Oh, that's what we're here to
lighter
find
objects
out.
than itself.
Currently,
the
the
rescue
D-Rex
chopper
has a
appears to
stat
be a
above.
model similar to a typical Eurocopter AS-365 Dolphin, which usually weighs just under 2.5 tons. The Distortus likely grabbed the chopper from below and twisted it sideways based on what we see the spotlight do in the film. The sudden jerk caused the rotors to fly off, given we don't hear the blades smack against it. This means with one arm, it managed to overcome the lift force of the chopper and the chopper's own weight before biting into it. And
That's
it is
terrifying.
fair to assume that given the Distortus wasn't at all winded by this, lobbing a few tons worth of projectiles is not anywhere near its peak of strength. This is likely considering how much weight it is hauling around and having to balance with such a tall frame as well. With two gigantic arms capable of grappling like an ape, the Distortus likely could smack, pummel, and crush smaller dinosaurs, and likely had done so for years to get its meals after
my
snarfing
God.
down Snickers Man. Could it lift up the T-Rex? Perhaps, but its
Oh,
tall
gosh.
stance and how much its foe could be thrashing about might make it awkward to try, even if it could lift up 8 tons with a single arm.
It can still pick it
Though
up and
is
smash
possible,
it
such
down,
a
though.
feat might require
Yeah, just-
both arms, and putting all that misbalanced weight on just its legs
just
might
do
be a bit
that.
too much for it. Still, sheer size does mean more muscle to have with,
79%,
and more mass to absorb
54%.
force when
Okay,
wrestling
they're-
and
they're-
battling an
they're not
opponent.
even.
Edge goes to the deformed
Overstrength
king.
D-Rex. Okay, D-Rex.
Section 3.
D-Rex has more
maneuverability.
strength.
Now, the
T-Rex
more
has-
size,
Tyrannosaurus
it's got
seen in
more
Rebirth
strength,
wasn't
so.
breaking any land speed records when it went after the Delgado family.
wonder when they're gonna
However,
put
its
the
lack of
T-Rex
success
having
might be more down to lack
I don't know. I
of
guess we're
trying
gonna
than
see.
actual lack of
More
speed.
strict,
Chances
bro.
are part of the reason it decided to go on the hunt was just as much out of boredom and instincts kicking up seeing a loud screaming object moving away from it as it was any hunger. In all likelihood, this Rex is comfortably quick when
The
it
kid
needs
might
to
be
be on
having a
land
fear
or in the water.
of the
If there is
D-Rex.
anything that did hinder
Kid
For sure,
might
everyone
have
were
created
afraid of the
colossus
D-Rex
that
when
was
they
the
saw it.
Distortus, it was speed. We don't
Yeah.
really see the D-Rex ever having a particular need to start booking it, but looking at its build doesn't really imply anything particularly swift. Its extremely tall stance, skinny limbs, and malformed body would make picking up speed awkward. Agility is another factor.
Might get up to a trot,
Center
maybe,
of
with the
rotation
arms?
is an aspect of movement that does exactly what it sounds like. While having more limbs on the ground does make the D-Rex more stable than a biped of the same mass and height might be, it does mean its center of gravity would be located in between the forward and hind limbs touching the ground. Turning around means moving twice as many limbs with a much larger radius to rotate and change direction. If the fight ends up in the water, like at the end of the movie, it's also likely that the Distortus would struggle. Long and skinny limbs are some of the worst combinations for trying to swim with,
It's
and
not
the
gonna be able to
Distortus would
dash
likely
around
be
quick enough.
restricted
The
to
T-Rex
just
comes from
wading
the
in the
side.
waters. This does still help it move around, but it also means it can't take advantage of diving under the surface to ambush. Even with the weight disadvantage, the Tyrannosaurus might be able to bowl over the larger Rex by charging
That's what
into
I was
its legs
thinking.
to knock the foundation out from under it. For this category, we find that the basic theropod shape reigns
83%
superior.
and
Edge,
Oh
T-Rex.
my.
Section number
Yeah,
four,
but that's just maneuverability.
bite effectiveness.
Bite
The Distortus,
effect.
meanwhile, leaves
Okay,
a very
so
big
the
impression when it,
Distortus
well,
has
literally
more-
left an impression on that helicopter
Well, we're gonna
with
find
its
out if it
teeth.
has
Yeah,
more
I-
bite.
Ignoring the fact it
Yeah.
grew about
Watch and
5
see
times its
which
It can
size for
bite
that
a
shot.
helicopter,
Thanks,
and the
Gareth. Biting
T-Rex
into a
can bite a
helicopter
car.
is still an impressive display of strength. The bite
Yeah,
of
can
25 was
T-Rex
mostly
even
focused on the
bite-
cockpit and aluminum body of the chopper.
the T-Rex
the
even
D-Rex
bite a
didn't completely crunch
helicopter?
through any of the sturdier ribbing and reinforcements,
so
but
the-
punching its teeth through the aluminum and cockpit is still impressive. The T-Rex might have had other contributors in the mix affecting its jaws, but Tyrannosaurus does appear to be the lion's share of whatever we're seeing here. Compared to a normal Tyrannosaurus jaw, the Distorted King does appear to have some deformities resembling brachycephalic animals. This is where the facial bones aren't allowed to grow to the extent they were supposed to, and usually result in snub noses and bent jaws. Pugs and the fellow hybrid, the Scorpius Rex, have a similar condition. This doesn't necessarily mean the jaws are weak, just that they might not be working as optimally as a Tyrannosaurus of equal size
'cause
would.
the
Applying
T-Rex can
information
open a
from
lot
real-life
wider
studies
and
about theropod jaws,
heavier
such as
chomp.
Dr. Manabu Sakamoto's 2022 study on theropod bite mechanics, we can make an estimate on what kind of chomp we're looking at here using our model.
Wait,
Scaling up
did
from
the
other known
D-Rex
tyrannosaurs
die
with the
in
formulas
Jurassic
provided,
World?
we get
No,
a
it did
potential
not.
jumping force
So it
between
stayed
about
alive until the
72,000 to
end?
92,000
Okay.
newtons. Admittedly, this is not an exact estimate. Movie physics and exact size scaling aside, the actual force could wind up being much lower than this because of the deformities in the jaw. Ignoring how the D-Rex suddenly grew into a kaiju to fit the helicopter into its mouth, even just a portion of this force would be more than enough to punch through the aluminum and glass without severely damaging the sturdier parts of the chopper. The Tyrannosaurs in the Jurassic franchise may not always have quite as crushing of a bite as they should, but they are still quite powerful all the same, and usually are given a ballpark range across various statements matching up to the real thing. So, a real-life T-Rex with all of the bells and whistles should be biting more effectively. But the movie versions aren't necessarily a slouch, and the Rebirth Tyrannosaurus does have a head and teeth more in line with the real thing than prior movie versions. Scaled to the stated metrics, it has a head similar in size to some studied specimens. This means a crunching force somewhere in the 40,000 to 55,000 Newton range, accounting for some differences in jaw structure and playing it safe. Could be higher if we assume similar mechanical advantages. So, the Distorted King likely has a heftier crush even with a suboptimal jaw, but the Tyrant King is not far behind, and would be more easily able to land multiple bites thanks to its frame. In the biting department, one can probably crunch harder, but the other can chomp down more easily and quickly. That means equal damage. For this
Ooh,
category, we'll
it's a
leave
tie.
it as a draw for both combatants.
Oh, dang.
Section number 5, auxiliary
I
weapons.
thought they would both be
While the
100%.
Rebirth Tyrannosaurus never showed any particular need to move quickly outside of an accidental disappearing act, there's little reason to think it can't. Extra mass might slow it down compared to someone like Rexy back in 1993, but even moving at a slower pace, it still has a very robust head that would be perfect for bludgeoning and crushing. The Buck, Bull, and Big Edie have all shown that Tyrannosaurs
They
in
like
this
to head
franchise are
chomp
not adverse
and
to
head
using their
bump.
heads as battering rams or bludgeons. A full body charge with enough speed behind it focused on that big brow at the top of its head could easily produce kinetic
That's like getting
energy
hit by a
exceeding
freaking
300
train,
to
dude.
400 kilojoules.
Woo!
How much impact force is
Wait,
behind
it's like
that would
getting
depend
hit
on
by
a
a
lot of
train.
factors.
Pretty
But
much.
those are similar numbers to a
Wait,
35 mile per hour pickup truck
See?
crash when not accounting for the crumple zones.
Like,
The
it's gonna
Distortus,
hurt.
meanwhile, doesn't really have the speed or the striking
So you'll
capability
just
to use its
instantly
head
die
like
when he
that.
bumps
It might
into
not
you?
even want to, given how
It's gonna
soft
hurt.
the top of its skull seems to be.
Yeah, but-
Instead, its best asset in
Yeah,
the fight,
but-
probably even
Bro.
more so than its head,
Aw.
would be its arms.
What is it doing?
Whatever
bro?
is
That
in the mix
dinosaur's
with this
cooked.
horrendous hybrid mutant gives it
That was a
plenty of
parasaur.
dexterity.
And
In the
it's
fight,
Yeah,
the
that
distorted
dinosaur-
king
yeah,
would
that thing is
swat,
cooked.
smack,
That
and
thing is
crush
cooked.
with potentially
bro,
disastrous
there's no
amounts
way
of
this thing
force. If
is
the
cooked.
Tyrannosaurus got pinned to the ground and smashed from above, so all that force is pressed against the hard ground,
Oh,
that might be
yep.
curtains for the tyrant lizard king.
guy's gonna
These
get
same arms
pummeled.
did also casually throw a roughly 2-ton helicopter after all. Whether they could actually pick up the Tyrannosaurus remains to be seen. In this specific fight, it might not even have to. Given how tall the Distortus is and how it seems to need to move carefully to avoid toppling, something supported by the universal documents, lifting about half its own body weight with just one arm might not be feasible. Using both arms might get the job done, but that would leave it with a substantially less stable stance. This doesn't appear to be something that would be throwing itself around and swinging about like Tarzan. Grappling could be done to try and seize hold of the Tyrannosaurus, but swinging or hefting its opponents might be outside the wheelhouse and not used in favor of pummeling and
That's
smashing.
still gonna be a couple
The
of hammers.
Tyrannosaurus's charge does give it a
Bang
potentially
down.
critical opening attack to knock the Distortus off balance. However, it would need space and an opening to wind up for the best effect. Thanks to its great reach
Biting
and
the head.
potential to follow up, the deformed king takes
T-Rex.
That's
this
another dub
advantage.
for the Distortus Rex.
Section 6, X Factors. The senses of Tyrannosaurus, both in real life and in the franchise, have already been covered extensively before. The Lost
yeah.
World established the replicated tyrants still have their superb sense of smell. Other outings in the franchise can vouch for a good sense of hearing and night vision. What's going on with the motion-based vision is a matter of debate, but most of the films seem to indicate at the very least
Bro,
the
been
replicated
eating
Tyrannosaurus
some
from
good
the
food.
original 90s batch more easily track moving objects than stationary ones. It remains to be seen or confirmed if this newer model suffered the same issues or not, but it likely has decent enough vision all the same. It's also
Not forget,
noteworthy
screw
that
the
this
way.
T-Rex is extremely stealthy when it wants to be, being quieter in movement and vocalizing than
Yeah,
prior
that was really
Tyrannosaurus.
silent of it to be able
the
to move.
Distortus Rex, however, is quite mysterious on what's going on under the hood.
The
For
Distortus
example,
Rex is
that
pretty
noticeably
powerful.
bulbous forehead it has could
The
be from having a
Distortus Rex
species like
can
a
beat
beluga
the
added
warden.
into the mixture. These and other dolphins
We're not talking about
actually have
Minecraft here, though. We're talking about
fairly
Jurassic
gnarly-looking
World.
skulls that bear more than a
Bro,
passing
the
resemblance to
Distortus
crocodiles
Rex can
when you
beat
look
the
at
warden,
just
but
the
the
bones.
T-Rex
The
can't.
round protrusion that smooths out the head is largely made up by an organ called a melon. Made of specialized
Watch
fats
your feet.
and wax,
Watch your
this
feet.
organ helps to focus
Bro, why does
echolocation
it
into
look like a-
specific directions.
Wait,
That's where they're
So,
showing, like,
does the
this, the
Distortus
look of
have
it.
this, and it
Of
has
the
another
look of
means of
the-
navigating the dark?
Bro,
Impossible
bro,
to tell,
the-
really.
bro,
This
the-
exact same
the
shape
blue
could also be due
the
to errors in
beluga
embryonic
from the
development.
secret-
Hydrocephaly
bro,
is a
the
condition where
beluga
cerebrospinal
literally-
fluids
bro,
build
the
up in the brain
beluga
case.
turned into
This can put
a-
pressure
turn-
on the
turned
brain,
into a
damaging parts
dinosaur
and
from
causing the head to
Tatooine, bro.
abnormally
The
swell,
beluga
expanding
literally
the
turned
skull
into a
or leaving
dinosaur.
soft, squishy lobes
Blue
outside of
beluga.
the skull. So we're left with a bit of a question. Either the D-Rex looks this way because it is a hybrid and might have some special abilities, or it looks the way it does because it's deformed. We stress that there really is no concrete answer on this one yet film-wise. To give our best guess, we can look at the traits involved as well as what the creature
have to make
does
another movie
in
to
the
answer some
movie.
questions.
If the Distortus has echolocation, it doesn't really seem to be showing it, given how easily it lost track of Duncan when he was right in front of it at the end of the movie. Known symptoms for hydrocephalic individuals, meanwhile, include distorted voices, changes in reasoning, irritability, poor temper control, slowed movement, and decreased coordination. Those all don't sound a lot like what we see more than any whale-based superpower. Universal easily could change this with more information, but for now, the D-Rex's
Gotta make another
distinctive
movie,
look
Universal.
seems to be more a factor of distortion than any intentional hybrid design. This X Factor did discuss a lot of what we would cover in the senses category, so for this potentially critical edge
T-Rex.
and
T-Rex
pushing
win.
at night, the Tyrannosaurus
That's
takes
still not
another
enough,
point.
I think.
With all our stats
So
in
the
play, let's take
Drex
a
one-
quick look at how this fight
Well.
could go.
We're gonna see.
Imagine.
Following showcases land battle between Tyrannosaurus and Distortus Rex in a battle. The end result of this matchup will be heavily determined by the previously discussed stats. So we just gotta wait and watch.
So he's gonna show the battle?
Yeah.
Bro, you said it will only be about talking. No, it's
Well,
not.
I didn't know that, like... I thought it might be just all about talking, but I guess we're gonna see an animated fight. Woo!
Dang, this is the fight. This is the perfect battle. He. You mean he.
Oh!
Oh.
Ooh.
Dang! Yeah, don't mess with my boy Distortus Rex.
Oh, he angry.
Don't mess with my boy Distortus Rex. That
The
was-
T-Rex did not have enough to wind up and actually fight.
Yeah, just boom, boom.
Wait. Oh, he not out? Oh, nope, he is out.
Like push him in the water and let him get eat.
This fight is actually very situational. In an upfront brawl where both of them can see each other and there are no obstacles, the Distortus would probably come out on top, thanks to leveraging its greater weight and strength. Having little trouble
The
grabbing
T-Rex
onto the
thought he could
Tyrannosaurus
win,
and slamming
but
it to the
Yeah,
ground
but-
repeatedly
Distortus
with
But
one
it's-
Rex
arm,
but again,
while
it's
flailing on
situational,
it
so
with
it's-
the other. It could soften up and badly wound the T-Rex before finishing it off with a bite to the throat or trampling it. However, the circumstances of the fight in the movie might tilt the odds. Given this T-Rex seems to be very adept in the water and likes to hang around rivers, it is likely the fight would involve the T-Rex ambushing the D-Rex in the water and taking it by surprise. Since the D-Rex would be wading into the river, that means the T-Rex would likely go for the legs and get the first strike. It might not be enough to drop the D-Rex, but it could cut into the foundations and slow the already less nimble behemoth down. From there, if the D-Rex could grab a hold of the T-Rex and fight back, it might get some momentum. But fighting at night and in all that water and darkness could make keeping hold and pummeling the T-Rex difficult. A direct bite would be devastating, but getting close might also put the D-Rex at risk of a crunch to its own face and rupturing
So
the
the
soft
D-Rex
dome
wins?
of its noggin. This is where the humans might have intervened to help further tilt the odds. Well-executed
So the
flares
D-Rex
might
wins.
distract the D-Rex
Well, we're still
momentarily
watching.
and give the T-Rex
Again,
another
it's
opening.
situational.
Alternatively, if the T-Rex got back in the water, it might be able to escape notice and come back for another surprise
can the
attack
D-Rex
aimed at a more
swim?
critical
I
spot
don't.
like the
It
face
didn't go after
or
the
neck.
humans, so.
Now, it was rumored that the T-Rex was actually supposed to win this fight. Quite frankly, we think that this happening, that being T-Rex pulling off this win, would be quite difficult in a fair and square fight in neutral terrain.
So
If
the
the T-Rex
T-Rex
does
literally
manage to
wins.
win, it would have been
Okay.
depending on
I'm done.
outside
I'm
factors
done.
such as leveraging
I'm done.
terrain,
I'm
humans
done with
playing a
Jurassic
major
World.
role
I'm
in
done. I'm
distracting
done.
the T-Rex,
I'm
and the
actually done.
T-Rex leveraging this
I don't
distraction
want
to
to see
then kill the
Jurassic World
Distractus
Rebirth ever again.
Distortus
I don't wanna.
Rex.
I don't wanna.
And where did we see this happen
done with Jurassic
before?
World.
Thankfully, D-Rex is still wandering about the cursed jungles of St. Hubert, and time will tell if we ever get to see this mutant throw down against an equal challenger.
I can't believe
Oh, that's
you-
it. That is
So the
pretty
T-Rex-
heavily decided battle. That
so-
most likely the D-Rex would probably win if it came down to it. So that was from Goji.
T-Rex wins. T-Rex
Pretty
wins.
much from the looks of it, that it would just dominate a lot. But again, it's all situational. So Universal never showed us. So I guess you gotta make another
Every-
Jurassic World movie.
Everybody comment down WD-Rex.
But yes, if you enjoyed this as much as he did, make sure to smash that like button, leave a comment down below, let me know what you thought about this. If there's any videos like to see me react to in the future or see him react with me in the future, give me some suggestions right down below. I take them all into consideration. And if you're new around here
T-Rex
and you've been
versus
enjoying what
Godzilla.
you're seeing, oh my
T-Rex
god,
versus Godzilla.
we're not gonna do that. Also, if you're new around here and you've been enjoying what you're seeing, why not click the subscribe button and click that bell to get notified of my next video. I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.